Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and leaving a comment if there's something in particular you'd like me to discuss. My name is Matt and you're watching Acuna Moscato. I'd like to discuss smoke tainting grapes. With fires burning all over the south and centre of the state and the smoke reaching as far as New Zealand, we've had some smoke hanging around the vineyard for sometimes extended periods of time. At this stage, I don't believe there's any smoke taint whatsoever. The risk of smoke taint depends on a number of factors, such as the growth stage of the vines, grape variety, smoke composition or what the smoke is made from, and smoke exposure or the length of time that the smoke was actually present or in and around the grapes. Also how dense that particular smoke was. Growth stage is probably the major factor as to whether or not grapevines get smoke taint, or grape bunches more in particular get smoke taint. The younger the growth, the less likely that the bunches that you will receive smoke taint in the wine. From bud burst to around EL12, or when the shoots are about 10 centimeters long, the chance is extremely low, and it remains low right through to EL19 to 26, sort of through the flowering period. When berries reach pea size, the risk starts to increase from a low to a medium risk factor. And pea size is EL21, or no, 31, sorry. Yeah, and the medium risk levels stay till around bunch closure, and then again it heightens, or it begins to heighten around veraison, when the grapes start to change colour. And the more the sugar content, or the higher the sugar content, the more chance of having smoke taint present. Things become a bit more risky at the onset of veraison, or when the grapes start to change colour. Yeah, then the risk is definitely it's medium to high at that stage, and the more grapes that change colour leading up to harvest, after veraison and leading up to harvest, the chemical composition of the smoke is able to enter into the grapes via the waxy cuticle at the bottom of the grape. The problem is that it binds with the sugar compounds inside the grape, making the content. That's why the risk increases so much after veraison. Sort of after veraison, the sugar content begins to climb, and towards harvest, especially those early days before you harvest, it's more or less completely developed. The sugars in the bunch are completely developed, therefore there's more sugars for the particles within the smoke to bind with. The smoke also does enter through the leaves, however studies have shown that it takes a long time for it to travel from the leaves to the bunch, therefore has less of a chance of affecting the grapes in terms of smoke taint. And as far as the chemical composition of the smoke goes, the longer that smoke is in the atmosphere, the more its chemical composition changes. So basically, the further away the fire is, the less harmful it is by the time the smoke reaches you. That's because there is lesser content of the free volatile molecules that bind with the sugars and cause smoke taint. So the molecules lessen the longer that the smoke is up in the atmosphere. And finally, smoke exposure, and how dense the smoke is hanging around. Also how high or low it is, because sometimes the smoke will pass by to be quite smoky in appearance, but visibility through the vines is fine. That's because the smoke is high, or quite light, one or the other. But normally it's because the smoke is high. You can't really see the sky all that well, but you can see quite a distance in front of you, and the smoke's not actually in amongst the vines as much as it is up high. It also has a bit to do with the length of time that the smoke is hanging around. Obviously, the longer that the smoke is there, the higher the risk of smoke taint, because your exposure has been longer and it's had a lot more time to go up inside the wax cuticles of the grapes. It was that stage of the year, and also more free volatile molecules are able to enter into your leaves as well. However, if you do get smoke taint, there was one particular very intelligent, I believe, winemaker from Tasmania. I won't mention his name just in case he doesn't want to be mentioned. He has, or had, a seconds label. So he'd purchased some smoke tainted fruit which he didn't believe was that bad at the time. He purchased it from fires that were burning way in the north of the state. And he got it for quite a good price. He bought it down hoping that he'd be able to get rid of those smoky characteristics. However, it was nearly impossible because there's such a strong flavour, and it's very hard to find it out and get rid of it. At one stage he did think that he'd actually been able to eliminate the smoke, but he'd come back with vengeance. It was quite strong. Anyway, long story short, he eventually bottled the wine, put it in under his seconds label because it was nowhere near the standards of his home block sort of range. And on the back of the label, in the description of the wine characteristics, he put smoky oak characteristics, but especially novice wine drinkers were quite happy with it because they were able to taste this smoky oak characteristic, and it actually sold quite well. So with a little bit of clever marketing, you can spin it your way if you do have smoke taint. This won't work for everyone, of course, but you know, people that are just on a wine tour may actually appreciate the fact that the wine's got smoke taint if they are led to believe that smoke taint's a good thing and not a bad thing. So, you know, if they enjoy it, it's not necessarily immoral if they're enjoying the wine. So yeah, that's just food for thought. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you found it helpful, especially if you're in Tasmania at the moment with the smoke hanging about. And I will chat to you next time.